Assalamu alaikum and welcome to the online classes with the hope that you are doing well, though the whole world is passing through a very pandemic situations. Okay, and at the same time, I do believe, my dear students, you are very careful with your health and sanitizations to cope up with these very situations. That means the serious situations of this COVID-19. So, my dear students, today I'd like to conduct the class on the Unit 5, Lesson 6. The unit is about an imaginary story or a fable. So now let's go to read out the passage together. So here, my dear students, you see the part of the story, just a part of the story, because you've already gone through the story, because the beginning of the story you just have gone through. That's why here is the part of the story. Today we'll like to conduct the class on the very specific part of the story about an imaginary story, like that, a fable about the story about a dove and a rat. Okay, my dear students, let's go now. Here you see the title of the passage, Unit 5, Lesson 6, A Truthful Dove. Understand, in literary term, it's a symbolic story. That means in a symbolic story, for the people have something to learn, to acquire just from the sense of our morality. Okay, here you see the stories about a dove and a rat and an owl, three animals. That means birds. Here the birds will play like the animal here. That means here dove, dove is a character of very gentle behavior, gentle nature. And on the other hand, you see rat is a very selfish character, like a selfish friend. Okay, and at the same time owl plays the role of his, I think owl is another character here. He is also very selfish. He plays the role of selfishness. Okay, so my dear students, let's start together to read out the story, because this is the part of the story, because you have already finished the story again now. And I'd like to remind you again that before reading out a text or a story or a passage or paragraph, you should know that how can we understand the meaning of the paragraph, understand the theme of the paragraph, because before reading out the study we must have some vocabulary. Understand? So my dear students, today while reading the passage we will mark and try to keep in our mind some significant and important word. Okay, now go. Here the passage I am reading now. All this time the dove was listening to her friend's false praises. So my dear students, here you see false praises. Here is the information of the passage, one of the information. Okay, because false praise means, false praise means, actually it means flattery. Flattery means, that means to speak good of somebody, speak well of somebody, because it's not true. That means to speak good of anybody to get or to own his or her own sake. Okay, and then she was wondering how insincere his praises were. This is an exclamatory sentence. The dove hung her head down and was quiet. Do you know quiet means? So my dear students, there are two quiet like these words. One is Q-U-I-E-T. That means its meaning is very calm, very winsome situation, very winsome environment, right? And another one is Q-U-I-T-E. If E is just before the T, then it is calm, understand, very peaceful, very silent. But if the word is with the end of E, there is whole, that means very complete, understand, like similarity. The owl got impatient. My dear students, here we can understand another word, impatient, because I've marked the word for you. Impatient means very restless. If I say, are you impatient? Are you impatient to do the exam? Are you impatient to do the work? Are you impatient to do your household chores and works? Obviously not. It's a negative word. My dear student, he wanted to hear more praises. Heat, that means the owl. The owl wants to get praise, wants to get flattery from any other people, any other person. Okay, Here he looked at the dove and asked, "Don't you have any good thing to say about me?" Now, my dear students, I'd like to point you here that here you can see inverted comma. This is inverted comma. That means there is a grammatical term here. The term is narration, right? In direct sentence, you know, direct sentence are in inverted comma. That means quotation mark. Understand? Here you see at the top and asked. Asked, this is a reporting verb, and the sentence in inverted comma is a reported speech, right? So you know it very well, my dear students. Then the bat joined the owl. Yes. Don't you have any words of praise for our kind host? That means it's one kind of flattery. This sentence is full of flattery, right? And it's said by the selfish rat, very cunning rat. Understand? The bat is very cunning. So, my dear students, then the dove was ashamed of her friend and kept her eyes down. Do you know another word here? Ashamed? Perhaps it's unknown to you, because ashamed means shy. Understand? Shy means the limitation of your mind. You are not very smart. Understand? Smart in talking, smart in gesture, and like this, your movement. Then the owl asked the dove, "Come on, say something." Here is another word for you. This may be unknown to you, my dear students. Asked means here, asked means to support somebody. Understand? To support somebody, that means to take favor, to do somebody. Okay? Now the students, just I've read out the passage, okay, for your better understanding that actually there is something more in your next chapter about the imaginary story, okay, and in next classes you will be able to know about that part of the story, next part of the story. So my dear students, now you see here again I want to remind you here the keywords may be false praises. False praise means I told you that flattery, that means speak good of somebody for getting oneself and sake, okay. And next word quiet. Here I pointed you that quiet and quiet pronunciation is same but spelling is different, okay. Spelling isn't same. So Q-U-I-E-T, quiet means calm, winsome, very silent, and oppositely if it is quiet, the T is after E is after T, that is very completely whole. Sometimes you may mistake because you cannot understand, you cannot think about the difference of the spelling, but pronunciation is same. Sometimes you may face problems with using quiet and quiet. So however, my students, let's go. The owl got impatient. Impatient means very restless. Understand? Very busy. You understand, I think. Then, my dear students, here I have pointed you a grammatical part, right? Grammatical part, narration, how a direct sentence is in a passage or text, right? Then, my dear students, here another information is ashamed. Here you see ashamed means very shy of something or somebody, right? And then the owl asked the dove. Here asked means to support, to make pressure to somebody to do something, okay. So my dear students, now I want to take you to justify yourself from 3 questions. Understand? From 3 questions, here you can see choose the best answer. That means it's MCQ type question. Obviously it's not very difficult, but to have a better skill to for the exam you should have a lot of vocabulary. Understand? There is no alternative to have a collection of huge vocabulary. Understand? So my dear students, here you can see 3 questions just based on the text, that means the part of the story, part of the imaginary story. So my dear students, here the first questions we will discuss about. Okay, so now look at this question, maybe in your exam like this way. A number question is the phrase in line 2 false phrase means, because you know it very well, because if you read the passage well you can understand the theme of the passage and you can solve at the same time very easily within a very short time, because I have discussed to you about false praise. False praise means flattery. So here first word falsehood, this like similar to false. Falsehood means instead of being fault and false, flattery, you know, to speak something better, to get something own, understand, but in a very fake way. That means here flattery means, you know, fake, fraud, understand, fake or fraud. So criticize is also a negative word. Criticize means to speak anybody with his or her absence in a negative way. Wish well, that means you think well. Wish well means you expect good and expect welfare of your friend, your family, or any other person. No. So my dear students, here we can describe and criticize the word. Now falsehood, flattery and criticize, these are similar words because these are very used in negative sense, right? Here wish well is a positive word. We use it in positive sense because you should not think about this very word wish well. Okay, so think about these are three words: falsehood, flattery and criticize. Okay, my dear students, here you know falsehood similar but not just pointed to the text. Flattery and criticize. Criticize means to speak somebody with his absence or her absence. So it should not be the answer. Flattery here, because I have discussed you false praise means flattery. So correct answer is obviously you can take flattery. Okay. Now let's go to see the question number B. Here the word insincere is a very. Here is an unmarked word because everything should not be marked. Here no, my students, insincere, you are asked here to identify what type of parts of speech insincere is, right? So you know here insincere means what? Very careless, understand, inattentive. If you have a lack of full attention, you are insincere. I think you are not insincere, very sincere one, everyone. So my dear students, here insincere is a what kind of parts of speech? You say first noun. Are you insincere? Is a quality of somebody. Okay, it is somebody's quality. So if you know what is adjective, adjective is the words which denote something quality of a person or a thing. That's called adjective. Here you see undoubtedly insincere is an adjective, of course an adjective, because here is an option adjective, my dear students. But interjection no, adverb no. Adverb is an action of verb. How the verb is done? See number, the word ashamed is closest to the word. Sometimes you may face these type of questions in your exam. So my dear students, now you look here, the word ashamed is closest to the word. Okay, which word? There are four options here. Four options. That means it's like the questions from similar words. Okay, based on the similar words from the text. Sad is very easy word, you know. So sad means in a very sad mood, unhappy, right? 2 number, unwise. Unwise is opposite to wise. Understand, lack of intelligence. Lack of intelligence. Prudence, unwise is a negative word as well. Abuse and avid. Here you face sad and unwise are known to you, but these way two words abuse and avid are unknown to you, right, my dear students? Think abuse you don't know, avid also don't know. Sometimes you may face to select, to choose these types of questions with based on similar words. Think about these words only, just compare. Avid means very interested, and abuse, this is the word rest now. Ablush means ashamed, right, my dear students? So you came to know today how you can face to solve this kind of questions in your exam from the text. Obviously, I think you may face this kind of problem to choose the best one, because you may face a lot of thoughts, differences in your minds to select the correct word, right? So, dear students, again, I want to remind you that the categories of the questions based on the MCQ, that means the alternative types questions, how the questions may come in your exam. Here is some techniques, that means some categories. First category is false phrases, means that means the information actually based on the similar word as well. And second category is the parts of speech. You may be asked to identify the parts of speech of the very word from the text. Sometimes you should do it. And third, the word ashamed is also like the similar based. That means almost of the time you may face the questions to choose from the alternatives based on the similar words, that means synonym words. Sometimes maybe the words in antonym words as well. Sometimes the questions may come in your exam to identify from the four alternatives of the words, to check one, to keep one as opposite, okay, that means antonym word. So my dear students, I do believe that you learned today something to that means to choose how to choose MCQ type questions, the best word. So I do believe you are very happy to learn something new from this class, right? And at the same time, I do believe you will use your experience in your exam, in your practical lab, especially in using a foreign language like the American, like the British, okay? So my dear students, no more today. Want to welcome you to our next class, and I do believe at the same time you are very careful and you are following the health rules very sincerely. You are not insincere, right? You are very sincere and serious about the very pandemic situations from COVID-19. I do believe you should use masks and follow all the health sanitizations, including washing hands, right? And wearing very nice clothes and very clean clothes. Thank you very much. Thank you all, my dear students. Right, no more today.